Let's go back to the first pay-per-view of the new millennium as WCW presents Sold Out 2000s, featuring gimmick matches galore, as the company has reached the height of its dysfunction with Vince Russo at the wheel. The show kicks off with a lot of pyro, and the three-man commentary team of Mike Tenay, Bobby the Brain Heenan, and Tony Schiavone welcome us. They run us through some last-minute changes to the card. Bret Hart was unable to defend the World Heavyweight Championship and was forced to relinquish the title, having sustained what would be a career-ending concussion at the hands of Goldberg the previous month at Starrcade. Jeff Jarrett had also sustained a concussion following a diving headbutt from Chris Benoit, and the match between those two was also called off. To replace those matches, we'd get Chris Benoit challenge Sid Vicious for the vacant WCW Championship. Now, the match between Benoit and Jarrett was scheduled to be a triple threat theatre series. In a bid not to disappoint the fans who had been looking forward to this match, it would go ahead with Billy Kidman facing off against three separate wrestlers: Dean Malenko, Perry Saturn, and the Question Mark. We kick off with Kidman facing Dean Malenko in the first round of the Triple Threat Theatre series in a catch-as-catch-can match. What's that, I hear you ask? The rules are simple. In the match, the catch-as-catch-can match, it's catch-as-catch-can, but feet on the floor you cannot. So stay in the ring or the bell will go ding and the catch-as-catch-can match will be lost. Or something like that. The match ended abruptly when, for some reason, Dean Malenko decided to exit the ring, breaking the match's only rule and giving Kidman the easy win. We cut to a clip from earlier that night on the pre-show, where Vampiro is getting beat up by the tag team champions David Flair and Crowbar. This was originally scheduled to be a singles match between Flair and Vampiro. However, Vampiro demanded it became a three-way dance, adding Crowbar to the mix so that he could get his hands on him too. We're treated to two backstage interviews, firstly Vampiro, and then David Flair, Crowbar, and Daphne. Little sense is made of either of these interviews, with Chono interrupting Vampiro's promo for reasons. The match gets underway, and it's basically a handicap match, with Flair and Crowbar, the current tag team champions, displaying their teamwork. Despite that, Vampiro leads early on with the offense to both men, taking barely any damage. This changes, however, when Crowbar hits the tope con hilo onto Vampiro, as he's about to uranagi David Flair on the outside of the ring. This would prove a turning point in the match, as the pair beat down Vampiro, with Crowbar hitting a splash to the outside of the ring. Momentum swings the way of the tag team champions, as David Flair and Crowbar beat down Vampiro. That is until Flair applied the figure 4 leg lock on Vampiro while Crowbar attempts to pin him. This prompted the two to start fighting. It's a real triple threat now. Daphne kisses Flair, causing a distraction and a botched interference, allowing for the opening for Vampiro to hit Flair with a nail in the coffin for the win. Certainly not the greatest match you'll ever see, but a fun match with some good moves, and it made Vampiro look strong as it was basically a handicap match. We're backstage again as Mean Gene interviews the Mamalukes, Johnny the Bull, Big Vito, Disco Inferno, and Tony Mamaluke, ahead of their match with Ron and Don, the Harris brothers. Disco Inferno just doesn't fit into this faction at all, but I think that's what the joke is here. But it would of course be Disco who proved to be the difference in this match, as he interfered, pushing the Harris brothers off the top rope and allowing the pin for his team. On to the Cruiserweight match. Now, if there's one diamond in the rough that is WCW, it's the Cruiserweights often stealing the show. Unfortunately, this was not one of them. The Cruiserweight title match between Medusa and Oklahoma was something. Despite clearly not being a Cruiserweight, Oklahoma had possession of the title after stealing it from Medusa by attacking her with a broom and dousing her in barbecue sauce. Oklahoma gets on the mic and cuts possibly the most misogynistic promo I've ever heard, and I'm not going to be repeating any of that here. The 5-star classic came to a conclusion when Oklahoma picked up the win with a schoolboy, pulling Medusa's skirt down and using it as leverage. Afterwards, Medusa and her accomplices beat up Oklahoma, and it was then his turn to be doused in barbecue sauce. Man, WCW was wild. For the hard way saw the WCW Hardcore Champion Brian Knobbs defend against Screaming Norman Smiley, Fit Finlay, and Meng. Brian Knobbs retains in a match lasting about 6 minutes and consists mostly of headshots to Meng. The The second match in the Triple Threat Theatre series saw Kidman facing off against Perry Saturn in a bunkhouse brawl. The rules of bunkhouse brawl are essentially that of a Falls Count Anywhere match where all weapons are permitted. The main drawback of this match was that it was pretty obvious Kidman was going to win from the outset, as the third match was already scheduled. But it was a decent enough match and served its purpose. A promo hyping the Booker T Stevie Ray match plays as Stevie Ray revisits his past in the ghetto. Stevie reminds Booker that this is where they're from and accuses him of trying to forget his roots. Mean Gene interviews Stevie Ray, who says Booker will always be his little brother, but tonight he's going to teach him a lesson. After a bit of back and forth, the match ceased when Ahmed Johnson interfered as he and Stevie Ray beat down Booker, causing a DQ. Johnson would reveal his new name to be Big T, and Stevie Ray would dub the duo the New Harlem Heat. Now around this time, WCW were pushing Tank Abbott as a legitimate MMA fighter, and so in the next match, billed as a shoot fight, he squashed Jerry Flynn in very quick time. There's really not much else to say here. A hidden gem of this card saw DDP take on Buff Bagwell in a last man standing match. A vignette recaps the feud leading into this match, and there'd been a love triangle between Buff, DDP, and his wife Kimberly Page. The two brawled around the arena from the get-go, and Buff hits DDP with an elbow drop through the announce table. The action returns to the ring with the two exchange a series of moves and near 10 counts. Just when it looks like DDP is down for the count, he gets up at 9 and hits Buff with a diamond cutter. The desperation move was not enough to save the match, however, as Buff gets up just before the 10 count, but DDP doesn't have anything left in the tank and is unable to stand. Kimberly Page then turns up and gives Buff the eyes. Just as it looks like a swerve is inevitable, it was all a ploy, causing the distraction and allowing DDP to beat Buff down post-match, and the married couple leave the arena together. Don't you just love a happy ending? The third and final match in Kidman's Triple Threat series was a caged heat match. Shane Douglas comes out from the back and starts mugging Kidman off, and announces his mystery opponent is none other than The Wall. To be honest, there wasn't much point in this being a cage match. Aside from the occasional cage spot, it was pretty much a standard match which just happened to be inside of a cage. The Wall won after catching Kidman from the top rope and chokeslamming him for the 3 count. Much like Game of Thrones, a pretty anticlimactic ending to the series. In a match that Tony Schiavone says is for the future of WCW, we get Terry Funk against Kevin Nash. This was a hardcore match with the added stipulation that should Nash defeat Funk, he'd replace him as the commissioner of WCW, while if Funk won, the NWO would be forced to disband. They brawl around the ring and Nash hits the jackknife powerbomb through the announce table. He gets on the mic and mocks Funk and tells him if he can make it back to the ring, he can keep his commissionership. Funk makes it back to the ring, but Nash reveals himself to be a lying son of a bitch and continues the beatdown. Another vicious jackknife powerbomb, this time through steel chairs, saw Nash pick up the victory and become the new commissioner. The main event of the evening saw Chris Benoit and Sid Vicious compete for the vacant WCW World Heavyweight Championship, with Arn Anderson serving as a special guest referee. This goat does his classic, "Let's get ready to rumble!" And we're underway. Early into the match, Perry Saturn and David Flair would emerge at the top of the stage. The locker room would soon empty, with everyone wanting to get a closer look at the match. Such was its importance to the future of WCW. In many ways, I consider this match to be a metaphor for what led to the ultimate demise of WCW, pushing older, more established, and often washed up and past their prime stars to the title picture, while overlooking younger, hungrier, and more exciting talent. A crossface saw Sid tap out and Benoit win his first world title. Redacted celebrates with his new title and gives an interview to Mean Gene. Arn Anderson congratulates his fellow horseman as Kevin Nash berates the new champion. He says that at midnight the title is going back to the NWO, which turned out to be true as Benoit would leave the company that night as his contract expired. The title was declared vacant the next night on Nitro as Sid's foot was under the rope and the reign was not recognised by WCW. but the reign was later re-recognised by WWE when they acquired WCW. Bet they're kicking themselves about that one. And that concludes the retro review. While this will probably go down as one of the worst WCW shows ever, I really enjoyed it. But what do you think about this show? Is it a forgotten gem or hot garbage? Comment below and let me know. If you've enjoyed this video, then drop a like and a subscribe below and let me know what shows you'd like me to do next. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you again next time.